All right, guys, welcome. Another 6th episode, a month off, and then another one in the span of a week. I just finished an exam, did really well, had a sauna. Tre called me. We were talking about normal stuff, and then we started talking about some deeper stuff. So why not do a podcast on Tre, huh? Uh-huh.
Yeah, I feel like this happened last time. We didn't do one for like a month and a half, and then we did 2 in a row.
That's just the flow, dude. The rhythm of the night.
Hell yeah. Fucking Hakuna Matata. Shit.
Yeah. Let's not fuck up like the one we did 2-3 ago that we never released because it was awful. That was terrible.
The one about the spiritual relationship with your old friend.
Yeah, I didn't even remember what it was about. So that's how bad it was. You just had to remind me. I couldn't remember anything we said. So yeah, what the fuck were we just talking about? Oh yeah, we were talking about. Okay, so we were talking. Me and Tre, friends, fucking talk, whatever. And we were talking about like COVID, not COVID. That was some basic shit. We were talking about like how, it can be such a tendency of a human to push away, to kind of create this ideal version of how their life should be. And when the present situation doesn't align with that, they almost just like give up on life in a sense, or just like push away like the present, like kind of like they're not willing to like take responsibility or have acceptance for what's going on, right? And they're like almost perpetually living in like either the past or the future. And then the future comes, and one chapter of life, the chapter turns to a new chapter, like if you think of the book of life. And then they start thinking about that last chapter, and that's when they start realizing like, oh shit, there's tons of good stuff, but I was too fucking in my head and like thinking about the future, which is not even a real thing, or the past, which doesn't exist anymore, to fucking realize it. And this sounds a lot like mindfulness, and in a sense it is, but it's something so many people do. Everyone.
We just have to not say be in the moment, and we're good.
Yeah, just stay away from all the new age lingo. But what was the stuff you were saying? You had some good stuff.
Yeah, what were we doing? We were talking about like COVID situations, and then
I think we were talking
about, like relationships.
Relationships, and you were like we were talking about like that's what it led to, like the imperfection, like how nothing's perfect, and life and relationships and situation, and you'll always be able to find something off, and if you focus on that,
Yeah, we were talking about like future thinking and how so many of us get caught in patterns of thought that bring us into an imagination of some sort of future where we're kind of imagining maybe situations we want to be in, or expectations of ourselves, who we want to be. And we were kind of realizing how this is sort of a toxic behavior that so many humans, including myself, do on occasion. And
yeah, same.
And I was thinking, like, when actually looking into the future is kind of only helpful if you have some realistic goals that you kind of want to bring to life, bring to, the table, that you want to start carrying out. If you have some sort of mission or purpose that you kind of want to, complete, like let's say you want to complete a book. So you look to the future to kind of plan out something. You just simply do it for planning. And I think then you come back and just live your day to day, hour to hour, moment to moment, and without looking to the future too much.
Exactly, yeah, because there's no more depressing moment than when you've been like, because I used to be like that so much, and I just remember like when that just kind of what I said before, like when that chapter closes, and then you're like, holy fuck, like I literally wasn't paying attention to all the things that were good, because like, maybe it's like, maybe Tre has a relationship, and Tre is a perfectionist in relationships, and he sees one small thing that's wrong with his girl or something, and then that ends, and then he's like, oh fuck, like there's so many good things, like that's one example. Or maybe like living in like a living situation, or where you live, or a group of friends that you have. Like maybe you're like, fuck, like they're annoying. Or your family is a great example. There's so many things.
Yeah,
It's so much easier to look at the negative than the positive.
It's like why can't I know I'm living in the good times when I'm actually in it? It's like you only know the good old days. You only know you're in the good old days in the future, because so many of us are always looking to the future when we're in those moments. So let's say we have a group of friends, or we have, we're in a certain situation, but we're always looking to the future. Like, how could I make this better? Like, what could I do next? Like, what are the next steps? Like, oh, I'm not very happy in this situation. Like what? So it's like you're always kind of looking to the future, always trying to fix things. And then you finally kind of get out and you make that change. And then you're kind of there. And then you look back and you're like, wow, I missed so many moments because I was always focused on the future or stuck in the past about something.
Yeah, I just thought of myself like in my early 20s, or like even in high school, just like how much, like I was just so well liked and popular and all the stuff that you'd wish that anyone would wish to be. But like I was also at the same time so focused on like learning everything about real estate, which is a career I never even pursued, and I would focus so much on business and stuff, and like learning about business. And it's just like I should have just been having fun. And yeah, maybe that stuff will come back. But then years later, just being so living in the past and just letting opportunities fly me by because I was like, heartbroken from a relationship or whatever. It just, yeah, exactly. The good old days is a great analogy.
Yeah, why can't I know the good old days when I'm in them? And
yeah, okay, now you remind me what we were saying on the phone is that like, so the good old days, so that's an idea, right? So then we tend to use this episodic memory, right, using some psychology terms, where we create maybe like a 2-year period. We try to fucking summarize it in like one word, like, oh, I was just going through things for 2 years straight. Is that all you were fucking doing? Or like, oh, I was just adjusting, those kind of words that like don't really give much about the experience. And I think that like, yeah,
it's strange.
That was kind of what we were saying.
Yeah, it's strange how sometimes like a whole span of months can go by and it will have all of a sudden will blur into this general umbrella. And I think it's when we're grooved into certain thinking patterns and certain modalities, we are pretty much living the same experience constantly. And when that happens, it just blurs into this mix of colors that becomes kind of gray and dull. And then at the end of the year, all we have to say for it is, the same experience. We're still in it. We're still stuck in that kind of blur of things. But I think the more you start to wake up and open your eyes to how the world really is around you and start taking your head out of the past and your thoughts out of the future, then each day is really fresh. And instead of at the end of the year, you'll have books to recount.
Yes. So that brings me to my point about like just the simplicity of the physical body and how important that is, like, because for me, it's like, if I wake up tomorrow and I just like drink coffee and just don't really do anything with my day because I have finally a day off, kind of, not really. Still have some astrology stuff to do. Or if I wake up and like have like an amazing workout and listen to my music, like that experience is gonna be so different, and that physical moving my body is gonna put me more in the moment. It's gonna make the little things in that moment feel better. The food I eat better. My thoughts are gonna be more pure, I'm gonna have a better memory, better cognitive ability, better, better reasoning, better at like having accessing the neutral or the positive mind as opposed to like negative mind. You know what I mean? And that's like, people overlook that so much. If it's yoga, walking, working out, whatever it is for you, like that's one thing that's like, it's so many people have like talked to me about that this year. And like, it's been such a huge thing for me, the importance of moving your body and finding out what that means for you. Because it's different for everyone.
Yeah, I think yeah, that kind of even just started the conversation on how to actually get out of this past and future thinking, because it's so easy to talk about, like, yeah, we're always in the future, we're always in the past, maybe we have some traumas that are in there, or maybe the traumas are resulting in us thinking about the future because we're worried, we're in this fight or flight trying to plan ahead and trying to plan every little step in our future so that we don't mess up or we don't fail or we don't fall down, you know. It's like trying to go down a hill on a skateboard while watching every single rock. It's like you've gone down the hill a million times counting every single rock,
Yeah.
instead of just fucking going down the hill on the skateboard without the fear of falling down. Like, yeah, maybe you can put some elbow pads on or a helmet, but in the end you can't count every single rock on the road. You just have to send it, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, it
I
reminds me of
think,
something.
yeah,
Go
in
ahead.
terms of like actually getting out of this mind state of the past and future, you began to touch on it with your running, because your running, what's it doing? It's putting your mind, it's focusing your attention onto movement, onto your body, onto a rhythm, onto, like, you listen to it
Yeah,
with trance, so you're going into this trance like music state and running. So when you
I'm
run,
in
you
the
have
highest
to
state
kind.
possible for a human. For my human, I'm at the highest possible state. Like, I've never done a drug that puts me on the level I get to every other day. I'm not even joking. It's that high. It's crazy. I'm in pure ecstasy for 2 hours.
Yeah,
Literally, dude.
yeah.
Like that.
And I think the big thing, so for me, it's breathing. For me, it's lying down and breathing and doing certain breathing patterns. That's what really takes me out of my thoughts and out of the future and the past, because bringing my attention to my breath actually clears the sky of the mind. So there's all these thoughts, which are clouds, and going into the breath is literally like a cleansing thing to clear that sky. And what
Yes.
what was I going to say? I lost it.
Just about, yeah. Like. Okay, well, I can. Like, it's like this. It's like my old counselor, Parham, great guy. He said something. I obviously don't remember the fucking quote, but I remember the idea behind the quote, which is like, you're not, because he was dealing a lot with addictions, counselor, and he was saying something like, you're not going to make a change from one. You're not going to make a change that resulted from you being in one mindset in the same mindset that you were in. And what he,
Right. Yeah,
it's not a
definitely.
very, that's not. So what he's trying to say is, like, if you're like, he was usually like saying that to like recovering addicts and stuff. He's like, if you just quit alcohol or drugs or whatever you're doing, and think that, like, by not moving your ass, or like, if it's like doing something active or doing something spiritual, like in the sober stuff, like going to meetings or like getting therapy or whatever type of healing, um, something to work, like either your spiritual self or your physical self or your intellectual self, or even getting a job, which is like self-esteem, and kind of for some people, it really helps them to occupy their mind if they're working with their hands. You're not going to change, like only thing that's going to change is like the fact that you don't have the substance in you, but you become what's known as a dry drunk or a dry
Yeah,
addict,
yeah.
like you're still just as miserable. You're just not taking the substance, because it's ultimately a
Yes.
spiritual issue. And that's what I'm saying, is that, like, it's way easier than most people give it. And what you were saying before about like, oh, I'm just stuck in my past, I'm stuck in my trauma, I have so much trauma. Well, like, if you actually like move, like, you're not going to get out of that trauma by just staying in, like waking up and just staying in that exact same place where you're in that trauma. But if you somehow can will yourself to getting a sweat out, to kind of doing exactly whatever your version of my, drinking a bunch of coffee or tea and going on a run, listening to my favorite music, like progressive sets of that over a long period of time is, whatever your version is, um, you're going to be able to change, and you're going to look at that trauma, and you maybe will see it with more perspective, from a more zoomed out perspective. And you might not feel as like, I have to fucking be a slave to this. I have to be a prisoner to this.
Yeah, definitely. That's it's so what happens is, like, we've set ourselves into a specific rhythm. It's a complex rhythm. It's not as like easy as I'm going to make it out to be, but like, let's say there's just a simple drum beat, right? and then all of a sudden you kind of get hit into some trauma, or something triggers you into anger, or you get worried about the future, then your breath, your heartbeat, and your whole physiology is going to start beating to a different rhythm and tune. And all of a sudden you're out of tune. But no one teaches us how to get back into tune. And so every single emotion we have, every single thought and feeling comes with a rhythm in our body. And when we go into the world as, electrical, biological beings and instruments that are experiencing reality, we feel these rhythms. We can instinctively sense when someone is angry when they walk into a room, even if they're not displaying any facial expressions. Our cells can feel this on a vibratory level. And when you're in an anxious, panicked state, your breathing will change. Everything will change. When you're calm and peaceful, your breathing's slow and easy. So this active movement that you're doing with running is like you're getting into this rhythm of breath, and you're retuning yourself also by listening to music, by putting your cells into a state of trance.
I'm programming, like the music I listen to is so uplifting and positive, and there's so many like it's magic what I'm doing, because on one hand I have memories associated, because I go see that music live all over the world for the past few years. I'm going to do that forever. So I have all of these like peak experiences, right? From like, if it's like a music festival or like a concert or even another time where I listen to this set on YouTube. That's one. Two, so those are memories coming back. They're flooding me with serotonin. Two, the meaning and the energy of the music is just completely replacing whatever thought patterns you're talking about, Like if I have a negative or like a really kind of low level thought pattern, if you listen to an hour straight of your favorite music, you're in the music. You're not in the fucking pattern. That like whatever that pattern, it's just like this thing that's like you're saying, this rhythm that's that just gets fucking blown away by a massive bomb of like positivity and new energy. And then it's like sleep.
Yeah.
It's like sleep, but like not being asleep. It's like awakened to sleep.
Yeah, you start patterning your own vibration. You start patterning your own dream reality, your dream wakefulness. It's like you're putting your waking mind into a so I think what we do so much as humans is we get entangled in our thoughts, and we think that we are them, and we follow these thoughts from like one string to another string, and we're always constantly working in our head. We're always telling stories. So it's like your body can have experienced trauma, but you're going to continue to perpetuate that trauma by continuing to write stories within your own head. And you're going to write stories in the future about like how things are going to go. We're constantly in our head thinking. And the key thing is to unravel yourselves from that thought patterning. And the best way to do that is through breathing. Like Jesse's doing it with breathing. If you don't have a method like art or painting or running, if you don't have a method, then literally just 10 minutes in the morning, breathe for 5 seconds, for 10 minutes, breathe, inhale for 5 seconds and exhale for 5 seconds, and just focus all of that on that.
What I would say, Trey, really quickly, a question is, a lot of people would listen to this and say, okay, but I suck at meditating. I'm too anxious. I can't sit still. Like after 30 seconds of being like that, I just tell myself like how shitty I am at fucking meditating, and I just give up. And it's almost like worse than not trying. What do you tell those people?
I mean, everyone can lie down. Just lie down, relax. And you can even put on something. Like, what you need to do is get your mind out of your thoughts. This is the key component. So you can even have a podcast running in the background if you get so distracted that easily. You can have some sort of, sound going on, some music going on in the background. But so that's not what's important. The key thing is to retune yourself, because you're out of balance. If you're feeling, if you're feeling caught in the past, or you're feeling caught in the future, what's happened is you've untuned, you're angry or some sort of thing.
You've been hijacked.
You need to rebalance. Yeah, it's like a guitar. A guitar goes out of tune, even if you just leave it, right? So we're just leaving our bodies to kind of let the thoughts untune us. And we always have to tune a guitar back after we've after we haven't played it for a while. So this is what you're doing with breathing. So once you master your breath, you become a master of your mind, because your mind and your breath and your emotions are all linked together. And so you can have something, but I promise you, like after a week, they say it takes 21 days to repattern your mind, but even just after 1 week of just 10 minutes in the morning, tuning yourself every morning. And when you feel yourself go out of balance, tuning yourself back.
Yeah. And it's different. It's different for everyone, like what I would say to someone who would have said the thing I said is like, well, maybe if you can't sit still, then you're nervous and you need to just fucking go on a walk. And one great thing is to set small goals. When you're coming out of it, out of a really dark place, you can have a tendency to think, I say this a million times, maybe I'll coin this because I did invent it, to see everything as like a giant fucking hill as opposed to like a bunch of little small hills. And when you can like think of like, okay, instead of having to go on a walk for an hour, I just need to go on a walk for 10 minutes outside. And and then after, like when I finish my runs, for example, like I fucking think, like I don't like thank myself in a way, but like I kind of like pound my chest and like thank, like I don't know, I do something where I'm like thanking God and it's like acknowledging that I fucking just did this amazing thing. I'm not just doing it and then being like, okay, not on to the next thing. I'm like, yo, I fucking, like I give myself credit. I'm like, I'm a fucking beast. That was a lot. Like I just ran for 2 hours straight, like no pain in my body, fucking feels so good. I did that. Like I'm the man. I deserve to eat sushi or some shit. I don't fucking know. But like that's what you got to be like to yourself. And this comes back to what I learned at Naropa about self-compassion, which is, from the Buddhist tradition. And that's another thing that's not taught. This is gonna be our best episode, I think, Trey. We'll call it like mental health or something. We'll probably get the less views with how great my Instagram's doing. But it's self-compassion is very simple. And it's just like the idea of, you're such a good friend to other people, right? Like everyone is like, not everyone, some people suck, but like a lot of people, it's very common, are so there for their friends and they don't want to see their friends or their family members or whoever it is, like go through their animals, even like go through tough times. But then when it comes to themselves, they're like, I don't care, like I can go through the tough time. And we've all seen it. Like even like older people do it a lot. They're like, like I'll suffer. Like I get it. There's a time where being sacrificial is like, very like onerous. But the whole idea of self-compassion is to kind of be there for yourself as you would for a friend. And it's easier said than done because like a lot of it has to do with self-love, which, is tough. But that's what we're saying is like by these little steps and these little hints forward, like the thing of like going on a 10-minute walk and thanking yourself and saluting yourself for doing it. That's like how you slowly move the needle of like self-esteem, like that multiplied,
Yeah, it's important not to set these huge, lofty goals that you're going to disappoint yourself with. You should almost start with things that seem too easy. Like if you're in a rut or something, especially, it's like do something that's like, that's so easy. Like I could totally do that. Not things like, okay, I might have to push myself for this. Like just like if you need to just breathe for 5 minutes, then that's it. Just do that for 5 minutes. And I keep losing trains, but can you jump off that?
No. Like, yeah, like the whole idea is like perfection. 1 second, my phone just fucking had to turn off.
Oh, I just remember.
You're moving. Perfectionism, basically.
Well, okay. What I was like the way I was going was we have to start changing how we look at ourselves and our bodies. And we have to start seeing them as like kind of like a reflection of, let's say like a garden or some sort of plant. We have to, if we water our garden with bad water, or if we forget to water it, or we forget to tune our instrument, things are just going to go out. Guitar strings are going to snap. We're going to get rusty, or the plants are going to die. We have to see that. And self-compassion is this watering of our garden, is this tuning of our body. And it's a daily task that's often we forget. Instead, we get so carried and wrapped up into our daily tasks, into oh fuck, how long is it going to take me to get to work? I'm going to have to, oh no, I woke up late, I'm going to have to get here at this time and this time. Or, oh, and I have this huge deadline due. We get wrapped up in these things, or we start to tell stories about ourselves or about our relationships, and just get out of it. We need to take that time to retune and unravel.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about watering your garden, and just waking up with that mindset of like thinking like, where am I at? Like, where am I at? How am I being to myself? And perfectionism is a disease of the 21st century. Fuck, my fucking touchpad on this iPhone just fucking stopped working. It's so annoying. You know any ways around this? Little side note.
It depends. Did you crack your screen, or did you fuck things up?
No, it's my backup phone, and I wasn't like taking it in the water, but I was in the sauna with it and shit, and it just out of nowhere, it's just like not fucking letting me.
Sometimes when you have your charger in, it messes it up.
Okay. No, it's just going wild.
Yeah, well, didn't you have that issue before? Isn't that why you switch phones?
With a different one. Okay, 1 second, Trey. Here, can you take over for I just sent this message? But yeah, like I guess what I was going towards is just like how perfectionism is the disease of the 21st century, and kind of how it relates back to everything with, like seeing like we all have such big imaginations, and we can like look at like, it's just like the more introspective you can get, like you can see like how your own imagination's fucking you over, like how, if you're looking at like the whole thing with like, oh, I see the Instagram post of the person who's living their amazing life and I compare myself to them, or, oh, I see a partner that's, I imagine a partner that's, like my twin flame, or other things we talked about in the last episodes, and like how they would be, and how much, things like that. Like your over idealization, like at a certain point, it comes back to how you perceive the divine, and how you perceive like how synchronicities have worked in your life, like what we were talking about before, and like, remember, before we started this, like I was saying like how I've kind of like grown to just trust that like wherever I'm at is where I'm meant to be. Whoever I'm with is who I'm meant to be. And I just take it day by day, because like if I looked back on myself 4 years ago or 2 years ago and like imagine myself, it's kind of hard to put this into words. Like I imagine me 2 years ago and how I may have been anxious about the future of that point, and how everything's worked out from then to now. It gives faith, like when I think about all the little mini synchronicities, all the people that I met that like showed me, for example, that I was actually really, that my idea to come to Romania, as an example, was not some fucking crazy thing in my head. It was really meant on there's spiritual forces telling me that you have to go here, like to get that validation, to get into school, to like have all these things, that just gives me less anxiety, because I feel like I'm going to be good no matter what,
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people think they're anxious because of certain situations. So people often give themselves that excuse, like, I'm anxious because of this. But actually, that's not entirely true. You've let yourself become anxious because of a certain situation, but in truth, you have complete control over how you react to it. And you do not have to feel anxious. This is a choice that you've made, and you've wrapped a story around it to justify it to yourself.
So let's go into stories. That's something I think we need to really explain more, and how those work, and maybe some examples, and keep going with what you were saying, but just like,
like let's say your boss is giving you this big deadline, and you immediately, the instinctive reaction is like, to maybe cuss that boss out, to wrap a story around yourself around self-victimization, like, oh, it's poor me, he's given me this deadline, I have to go. But these are all instinctive thoughts that we choose to believe straight away, like a click. It just happens, but we don't take the time to reflect on, or we don't have the space. That's when we don't have the space to actually distance ourselves, because anxiety doesn't serve anything. It serves to keep us alive. That's what anxiety is for.
Yeah.
It's for high stress
Yeah.
situations, to when we're confronted with a fucking tiger and we have to run away. Except nowadays our tiger is our boss, but we're not in a life-threatening situation. And the anxiety does nothing to actually help us through that. And so that's where we need to retune ourselves. We need to bring ourselves back into a center place where we can approach it without having these stories wrapped around it, because it doesn't do us any good. This anxiety doesn't do us any good, but we're
Yeah.
addicted to it in some ways. We like continue to perpetuate these cycles of thinking, and we continue to put ourselves in anxious states, looking forward to, like, looking to the future in anxiety. But when you're tuned, when you're centered, you don't have that. You don't have those fears, and you just live. And you might not be in a situation that's ideal, but you approach it completely differently than if you were anxious or wrapped in your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. And how could you, like, for someone who's like in a really low place, like how can someone identify what those stories are that they're telling themselves,
Anything that is a thought is a story. And there's a difference between reality and a story. So the reality of a situation is, I got hit by a car. That's a reality, right? That's a fact. The story you tell around it is, fuck that guy who just did this. Oh no, I'm going to be crippled for the rest of my life. This is going to cause so many issues. This is going to do this. This is going to do that. I'm not going to be able to get a girlfriend. I'm not going to be able to do this. These are the stories you tell around it. But the reality of the situation is very simple, and it doesn't have emotions, opinions, or beliefs surrounded it. So once you start to narrate your own reality with certain beliefs and things, that's when the stories come out. And then you start to believe those stories, and then those begin to dictate and limit your reality.
Right. So it's like that whole repetition of, like, your thoughts equal your beliefs equal your actions equal who you become, kind of. And yeah, it's just like over time that stuff catches up with you. And self-limiting beliefs are a real thing. And it could really relate to, like, we've talked a lot about, like, relationship stuff on this. I feel like people have said that they gain a lot about that stuff, but like, okay, you've been single for 2 years. So from a very, like, it's almost like an earth and astrology perspective, like, okay, that's just the fucking, that's just something that's true. But then the belief, one person's belief could be, I've been single for okay, let's say 3 years. Like, I'm unlovable. Like, I'll be single my whole life. I'm a loser. Like, no fucking girl or guy or whatever will ever want me. While a completely different person's could be like, oh, like, just hasn't happened. Whatever. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just like that, how you create your own reality based on that. But what, bring it back to our first point, like, it's easier said than done. And so much of it has to do with your body and how you feel with your breath and how your body feels and how your mind feels. Because your brain feels, your brain is a reflection of, like, how well you're treating it, right? Of how well you're treating your body. Your thoughts are a reflection, of that.
Exactly. Your thoughts are a mirror of your breath state. And so much of the time we let our thoughts loose. We have no agency over our own thinking. And it's easy. Like, people are like, how the fuck do you control your thoughts? You are your thoughts, right? But no, the second you actually start to breathe and remove your attention from your thoughts, you realize that they all manifest from an energy vibratory standpoint. So if you're in a low mood, you're only going to be producing thoughts at a certain frequency, and there's a buzz to them. And when you're in a centered place, actually, you don't even have thoughts. You can be a thoughtless human. And that's not to say that you're stupid. It's to say you're fully present. You're aware. You're clear. You're crisp. You're clean. Your mind is open. You're not raveling narratives.
You're almost you have, like, more space. It's like, instead of being like completely within the painting of your life, you're like looking at the painting of your life on a wall, you know? It's like, and
Yeah.
by being able to look at it, you see the whole painting, the whole picture, and you actually have more space. Like when something happens, you don't have to react impulsively. Like first reaction, oh, I have to like, oh, this person fucking told me this thing, I have to fucking tell them to go fuck themselves. Like, no, there's more space, more discernment, where you can think like, oh, maybe I can look at this from a different angle, you know, like how it, like, and seeing different people's perspectives. There's just so much, you know, to get out of that. And that's how you raise yourself. Like, even when I'm running, like, I'm not going to say it's more about running because I've said enough, but like, I literally feel myself, like I do this metaphor. I do lots of visualization, I think, overall. Like I imagine myself, like, I'm like, man, I'm starting low. I feel like I'm starting from like 6 levels under the ground, and I'll literally like run as my consciousness is raising and my vibration is running. Maybe like I'm 20 minutes, 30 minutes in, I'll be like, oh, and I'll feel it. I'll be like, oh my God, I just fucking finally got on earth. I'm finally in air. And then maybe after like 70, 60 minutes or like a certain point, I'll be like, holy shit, I'm flying, when I'm like not feeling my body. And it's just like, yeah. So it's like,
you're on like a fucking cosmic river.
Exactly. And the Hawthorne fucking music shit. But like, you can use that same type of visualization in your everyday life, and kind of like understand your inner currents, like even with the astrology, you know, like understanding your astrology, if that's, you know, what you choose to learn about, because it's a great way to understand yourself in the world. It's like, okay, but even more than the astrology is like, how am I feeling, you know? Because you can have the best trans in the world, but if you fucking eat McDonald's, which I ate 3 nights ago, God damn it. But like you can, I can have Venus, I can have like, you know, Jupiter go over my Venus, which it's really close to actually. And if I eat fucking Taco Bell and McDonald's for my meals and fucking drink like a bunch of beer, I'm gonna still feel like fucking ass. I think.
Yeah.
So
this brings me to like a point of self. Like, so many of us have constructed a self narrative. So we believe ourselves like, my name is Tre. I'm a writer. I like to do this. I like to do that. My hobbies are this. My favorite things are this. I hate this and I hate that. So we've constructed a narrative around who we are, and that narrative will play into our everyday life if we continue to adhere to it. So we have these thoughts and beliefs around who we are. And actually what's happening is, all that's happening is like, let's say I, you know, get served a meal that I don't like, then instantly in my head it's like, Tre doesn't like this. But this is something that
I'm not an electronic guy. Like my
exactly,
my brother, like, I'm like, hey, come to this festival. He's like, oh no, I'm not. He says I'm not. He has a lot of earth in his chart. I don't want to badmouth my brother, but it's just an example. He's like, oh, I'm not an astrology. I'm not an astrology guy, or I'm not a electronic festival guy. But it's like those statements just like when you know nothing about them, you know?
Yeah. And you've painted that for yourself. Like maybe you just were in a bad mood one day and you all of a sudden you couldn't grasp onto the idea of astrology or something like that. And you created a narrative you've created a narrative of what guy you are, but that none of that is true.
Right.
Because there's a just like we said before, there's a difference between reality and stories. And this narrative that we create ourselves around about who we are, this is a narrative. The reality, that's what we're really trying to pinpoint and focus on. What is the reality of self outside of narrative? And that's when breathing and thoughtlessness comes into play, because what we're trying to do with removing our thoughts and our narratives is to find our core, is to find the center of us that doesn't have this reality narrative going, that isn't limited by these things. There is a self within us that is whole and that is open and is outside of these narratives. And that the great secret, I feel like, is finding it, because when you do find that center, that's like a bedrock. It's like the anchor is like hit, like boom, there you are. And there's no narratives that come out of it. You're just there. And you exist as a pure frequency, and attuned frequency. And that is the self core. And if you move through life centered, like it's like a compass, You're moving.
Yeah.
If you're attuned to north, you're always going to go north. If you're attuned to, whatever direction, if you're attuned to your own compass, your own internal compass, your self core, no matter what you do, it doesn't matter what you do. You could be working at a McDonald's, but you're centered. You're not gonna. You're gonna be at peace. You're gonna be good. You're not gonna be strangling all these narratives, because as each moment comes, you're approaching it at your core, and that is ultimately going to lead you to where you want to be in life. That's the only thing that's going to lead you to where you want to be in life, is when you're centered and tuned, because then all of a sudden you're going to be matched with that frequency in your external world.
Exactly. You'll manifest. Yeah. Like and people don't really all the time, but like they use that word very like freely about manifesting. I hate the fucking word because of it's on my list of like blacklisted fucking words I've heard said in a really weird spiritual way. But maybe like creating through thought is a better way. Creating reality through repetitive thought. And over time, like kind of what you're saying, like by having that set of values, like whatever, that second house Taurus kind of energy of like earth energy of like, this is firmly what I'm about, but I'm also like, that's the earth, right? Like being very firm in the things that your values, but then also the mutable energy, which why I think Virgo is such a great sign, because it has earth, which is stable, but then it's mutable. So it's also really open to other perspectives, right? It's open to go with the flow, which is more so than like Taurus and Capricorn, the other earth signs. So it's like being able to be really solid in your beliefs and what you really deeply stand for, but also, like back to the example of like I'm not this kind of guy. Like that's a self-limiting belief, and maybe you just saw like one highly opinionated, like Joe Rogan kind of guy who like says something about astrology, like how could it be real, and like says some scientific thing. And then it's like, are you going to really allow one opinion to base something, like to create like your opinion? You're not going to like try on different things, because that's what, for me, what intellectual curiosity is all about, which is a huge part of my book, which I'm going to start writing on next week again, where it's like, to me, that's the highest, maybe not the highest, it's a top 2, top 3 highest form of intelligence, in my opinion, is how intellectually curious you are and how intellectually flexible you are. And some of the most intelligent people are very inflexible, especially in the scientific community, when it comes to real intellectuality, which is basically, if you want to define intellectual, it's about knowing, right? It's about truth at the end of the day.
Different ways of knowing.
So truth has been distorted from something that should be way more air oriented to something that's way more earth oriented. And earth being what's solid, traditional, doesn't change. The air being like, we're able to really talk and have discussions, have free, because so much comes from free discussions. When I'm talking to you, I feel free. I feel like I can fuck up, I can say something fucking retarded, but it won't matter. But if I'm talking to someone else, I might not feel that. I might feel like the pressure of like having to say things right. And then that only gives me like a small amount instead of like the infinite of being created. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And when you speak to someone who is open and less in their narratives and less stuck around who they think they are, you just meet an open person. There's an air that happens when you communicate with these people. It lifts you up. It opens you up. All of a sudden, everything is possible again. And this is going to get deep. This gets down to one of the fundamental theories in like quantum physics and what happens with our cells in our body and as a mirror of our mind. So there's this theory where everything is in a state of quantum possibility, right? So everything is variable. There's nothing that's glued or fixed. Every single particle doesn't exist until you observe it into a state, right? So basically our whole world is this huge wave of possibility, infinite possibility. And we, in our thoughts, in our behaviors, it's even going down on quantum levels. So we fix our state into certain things by adhering to a belief. So all of a sudden, something that was like completely limitless and infinite in possibility, in this wave of potential, has now been reduced to a single particle, which is one thought or one belief, like I am this. And then all of a sudden, the world has become smaller. And let's say, and
Yes.
that's exactly how it works. And if you can continue to keep your mind and your state of being in this wave of potential, this infinite state of not being, it's you're not being anything, you're open to anything, then that is when you can really start to just walk life freely.
Yeah, man. Just accept, yeah, and like just understanding that reality is never like people try to like understand and create rules, you know, for what reality is, but when you just kind of come to that, like what you just said, that comprehension that anything is possible and that we know nothing, it creates infinite in that whole web of quantum possibility, if that's what it's called,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And imagine, just trying to imagine living a life where anything is possible. You
Yeah.
know, it,
I mean, it starts
in
in the
your
head,
head,
you know,
yeah,
it starts
it
in the
starts
head.
there. And we are that, you know, we are, you know, it's easy to limit ourselves to our own beliefs, you know, to our humanness, to the to the boundaries of our senses. It's so easy to limit that. But when we really dive into it, we can be aware. If you try right now, you can be aware of just the feeling of being your finger. You can pull all your attention into just your finger. And even smaller, you can pull your attention just into your fingernail. Go even smaller, maybe you can just feel the flesh and the skin. And then go deeper, you can start to feel the blood moving through your body. If you can be aware of that, you can go so much deeper. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what self potential is. And if we can feel our blood, and we can be only our blood and our veins and our bones and our, then we can go deeper than that. Like, let's try and be a single, you know, a single cell. Can we go that deep? Can we become that aware of our own functions? And then we go deeper than that. We can even go to a place that exists beyond time in the quantum realms. We can open ourselves up to a place that isn't even in time. And when you really start to meditate, and when you really start to go deep, your awareness expands beyond your body. You're no longer just your body, you're the entire room as well. You're the
Yes.
it as much as you can go inwards infinitely down into a quantum state of awareness, you can go infinitely outwards into a cosmic sense of awareness.
So true. And that's, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like once you get, you, and that's what's so important as an introduction. Like it's really hard for people to comprehend that about meditation, you know? But like the first step in all of this is just scrapping everything you think you know. And that's hard for people to do because it's uncomfortable. But after you can somehow just try, and that's why like you can just say, okay, I'm just gonna try this on, you know? I'm not gonna fucking necessarily, you don't have to fucking go for it. Like you can just try it on for a day. Try on existing in a sense of like anything is possible, and you'll see that the reality that we've constructed, the consensus reality of like what humans have constructed, is just so off. And there's so many infinite variations. And
Yeah.
through the meditation like you're talking about, you can expand your mind to new possibilities. Through meditation, you have antennas,
Yeah.
you know, like thoughts that will come to you. Like I have thoughts like that come to me that like have no root in this reality, that like I've like there's not, like, you know, some people, like very logical people, be like, how did you think of that, you know, like what made you, like what logical things, like building blocks made you like think of this, you know, like what was it, this what then made you think of this, then of this? No, like sometimes things legit come to me, and I'm sure you know you as well, I know you as well, during meditation, that are literally have no root. They just like get planted, and anything's possible. But you have to start by, I think meditation is a must, in my opinion.
Yeah. And
I just don't see it.
don't perceive meditation as this thing where you have to sit down with a rigid back like this Buddhist monk. You can do it however you want. You can do it on in your fucking headstand. You can do it lying down. You can do it
Yeah.
like hanging upside down from a tree. Meditation is, let's scrap the word meditation. Let's find Let's find, it's more of an investigation. You're trying to uncover everything that you've been told. You're trying to unravel all your narratives,
Inner
and then
investigation,
what's left. Yeah.
stillness.
It's a
It's like
seeking, it's a truth seeking.
it's like almost a movement, an inner movement towards nothingness, which then becomes its polar opposite of everything.
Pure conscious awareness, stillness within the movement of everything that's manifested in some sort of way. I mean, we're getting kind
Well,
of
let's talk about,
abstract here.
no, fuck that. We are abstract. What's that tarot card? The one of nothing, of emptiness. Talk about that. I know this is like literally like the most Piscean fucking discussion ever, but you guys gotta fucking follow. I'm sure there's a lot of Pisces listening, or people with 12th house or Pisces energy.
Well,
who will understand this.
before we go into emptiness, I wanted to just quick, because you said something earlier that I just wanted to touch on, and it was when you said we had antennas. So
Yeah.
literally, we are electrical impulses. Like the entire universe is charged with electricity, and
Ooh, yeah.
dark matter that we're finding out now, which can, I mean, takes up like 93% of our universe. Like everything that we perceive right now, all this matter, all this hard stuff, is only like 7% or something like that. So
Yeah.
the biggest part of the universe is the space in between matter. And that is this huge thing. When you think about that, like that actually everything between ourselves, everything between the matter that's, manifested into reality, is only a tiny percentage of what actually exists. And when you begin to see, holy shit, that 97, this huge percentage of our universe is actually just space, as this neural web that's connecting everything through these electrical charges, that like when we touch a table or when we touch something, that's an electrical impulse. We forget the kind of miracles of touch. We're literally getting electrical impulses that are being translated to our nervous system, which is being sent up our spine into our brains, which is being processed by neurons and electrical pathways. And when we interact with other people, our whole reaction, our whole bodily communication, we're communicating on electrical levels. We are communicating unspoken things through our bodies every second, every moment. And this is how we are antennas. We are electrical impulses that are tuned into a huge field of electrical energy. We feel everything if we expand our nervous system outwards. Right now, everything we're focused kind of on our self is focused inwards, but we can stretch the limits of our nervous system like veins and branches out into the electrical static of the world. And this is where we start to begin to get things like downloads or, crazy, like some huge image that comes to us, or like this wave of inspiration or this wave of knowledge.
Yeah, and it comes differently for everyone, It really comes differently for everyone. And I think like one example is like just looking at the sky and imagining non-separateness between you and what's there, or looking at an ocean, something vast, because ultimately, like, those, I used to do those meditations for Katarina that were like doing all the sun and moon meditations where I had to like stare at the moon and do that mantra for a long time.
Yeah.
Like that connected me to the moon, where I was like squinty eyed looking at the moon, and I felt this like pathway. I don't know if you've done this, where it's like it's this ray of the moon that was shooting straight into my third eye. And it was just like how I squinted my eyes. Maybe I'll do it again tonight. I haven't done it for so long. And just like saying this like prayer, and it was just like this, literally like this fucking highway of light straight into my third eye, right? Yeah. And I think it's things like that, like that type of meditation, where you're feeling, or like getting into nature and just like really like psychedelics, like even though they're not comfortable to do for many people, and they can bring up a lot of fucking trauma, and even for some people like instigate like schizophrenia and stuff. Like I'm not advocating them, like know yourself, those can be incredible, even just doing them a few times in your life. You know, I haven't done them for a long time, for years, right? Since Boulder, but like, man, those times I did them, like it doesn't go away, you know?
Yeah, the mushrooms always hit you much nicer, I feel like, compared to the other stuff, because the mushrooms like really does open up. So for me, my theory about mushrooms is it gives you the sense of the fourth density reaching into the fifth density. You know how everyone's talking about where we're going into the age of Aquarius, which will ultimately lead to a fifth density awareness.
Yeah.
Or fifth dimensional, you know, I mean, it goes back and forth between what that means. But the fourth density awareness is you kind of start to see the movement of time through everything. So that's what I felt when I see those waves on the mushrooms. And I start to see a connection firstly, and I begin to feel how my body's electrical impulses are communicating with the plants and with the earth and with the sky and with the moon. And I can see how the planets orbiting in our universe, everything, every little movement a planet does, even though it's thousands of miles away, leaves a ripple. It's like dropping a stone into the water. It has an effect on us, even though we're so far away, because at the same time, there is no space between us on a certain level of awareness. Like on quantum levels of awareness, there's no real awareness of time and space, and the whole physics of our world begins to collapse. And you can see how these things actually have an effect on us. And when we rise into this like fifth density awareness, it's well, I won't go there. I think that we'll stay here right now.
Why not?
I think this is a good, comfortable place right now to be in. But about kind of talking about how just opening and understanding the super actual intelligence of the body, and that we're not, you know, we get so focused on ourself just looking through our eyes and our senses, but we forget that every single cell is communicating with the outside world. You having troubles with your phone? I can't hear anything you're saying. I can't hear anything.
Okay, finally. My fucking phone. I'm gonna burn it. I hate this iPhone. Oh my god. It was for like half of your last speech, it kept going on Siri because now this phone's broken. This fucking passcode. So it kept going on Siri every 2 seconds. I kept trying to go to Bluetooth to turn it off. It just kept going to Siri. I missed like nearly your whole fucking speech about the fourth dimension, which I wanted to fucking hear. So fucking annoying. God damn it. So now I have 2 broken phones. Great. And now it's back to Siri. So I'm just gonna.
So in this moment, this is a perfect opportunity to not create a narrative around it, around your phone.
Yeah,
so
yeah. And this opportunity, and this time I'm just gonna.
Exactly what we do.
Yeah. Because this, it's great. Love my phone, but you know, I can also just be like, whatever. I'm grateful that I have a phone or whatever, 2 phones. This one is just not that good anymore. But yeah, so I think we went on a long kind of like talk about like kind of like what's possible, but like I still always like coming back to like, you know, I think for being in a high place or having that, you know, whatever me and you have, which we sometimes overlook what it has taken to get here, and still even staying there is not easy. It's not like me and you are both fucking perfectly happy fucking people all the fucking time. You know what I mean? We just have
it's like
a high level of knowledge for our age or wisdom because of our experiences and our souls, I guess you could say.
You know? Like I mean,
what about for the person who hasn't had that, you know?
Yeah, like because I came from just, you know, super gamer background, eating McDonald's every day, very depressed. Like, you know, I wouldn't even go outside. I was just like in my headset, escaping into another reality all the time. And, you know, it did take a big shock to kind of wake me up out of that. And I thought after I had woken up out of that reality, I would never fall back into it. This was my kind of naive perception that I thought, I wouldn't
We
fall
always
back
do.
in. But then my behaviors started shifting back. Like I started letting myself fall a bit, you know. I started letting my behaviors shift. I started paying less attention to nature. I started meditating less. I started eating worse foods. And then all of a sudden, I found
Yeah.
myself in a relapse of my old mental state where I was not open at all. And all my old thoughts, because I had lowered myself to such a vibration that I couldn't see a way to get out. And that was really tricky, and I relapsed into this. And it's possible to do that. You have to be able to keep a consistency and keep tuning yourself, because or else you're just going to go so out of tune
Yes.
that it's going to be hard to get back into tune, you know, because you're going to go so low that even the tuner can't find the note that you're playing.
Yeah, it's true. It's like you can, it's for anyone, you know, look at like Jordan Peterson, right? Like, I can think of a million examples of the person that you think has their shit together, right? And then you find out that he's been struggling with benzodiazepine addiction for years after his wife died, you know, and just like, or didn't die, nearly died. And just like, there's like, you know, just because someone seems like that, like, and I think a lot of people like can get really down when they see someone else, like especially on Instagram or, you know, YouTube or whatever, and they can get really jealous because they see how that person is on camera, how that person presents themselves. But like, yeah, like everyone knows this, but it's like, you know, don't judge like how someone is on social media to, or like, don't compare yourself to them. But like, there's usually so much darkness behind so many people that goes unseen, you know.
Yeah,
So
and I
you
think
really,
the
you
best
really,
practice. Right, go ahead.
I was going to say, you only really have yourself to anchor. You only really have yourself to compare yourself to, and
Yeah.
no one else's life. Because it's kind of like other people's life, and comparing yourself to other people is kind of like another slippery slope, just like the fucking future and the past are. You know,
Yeah.
it's like the past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. They're only fucking like metaphoric, symbolic, like potentials. And so is
Yeah.
someone else's life. I might see
It's
someone.
literally just a metaphor for how we as bodies of matter move in relation to the speed of light. That's the only reason we're
Ooh,
perceiving past and future in that way. But it's
yeah,
actually, there is no past or future. But because we're moving in relationship to the speed of light, things go at a certain speed and pace, and they carry out in a certain. So it's like, imagine you have this film reel, right? An old school film reel where you have that film hooked up to the projector, right? And if you play the projector speed at the perfect length, you'll get a nice movie, right? You'll have a nice movie
yeah,
playing on the screen. If you slow it down, you'll start to see the frame by frame by frame picture. But if you start speeding it up really, 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 really fast until you meet the speed of light, there's going to be no distinction between each moment. And that's exactly how our reality works. We're only perceiving this past, future, present because of the relationship of which we're moving to the speed of light. It's all this big illusion. And we're
yeah,
instead of viewing the projector, we're in the scene and we're experiencing it clip by clip. So if you can bring your awareness out and see the projector and see, actually, holy shit, my whole experience of life has already been wound. It's already in an infinite loop, and I can experience it all in one moment. But we dive into these bodies and we dive into this relationship to light and to the universe to experience our own movie.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. I kind of forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, you're talking about something, and I got really, all of a sudden, this like idea hit me because I was listening to this like theory about light and how perception changes when when we're moving at different speeds. So like we age differently, we perceive the
Oh
world
no, you're right.
differently.
you reminded me, it's like, it's all linked to like the golden age and the silver age and the bronze age and the iron age, the Kali Yuga and all those times, you know, the yugas. It's like, and I'm not going to get into all of that, but basically like, you know, when the world is at a time, age on the 24,000 year cycle, right? There's like a 12,000 year descending and 12,000 year ascending. We're right there. And so when you're at the kind of these bottom ages, the perception of time, like time moves a lot slower. People live a lot shorter, right? There's a lot more density that exists. And I think that also like from like, as you can compare that to just everyday lives, regardless of the year, you know, the density of your time in your life can be a lot different based on like kind of what we were talking about before. Like my example, like if I'm running in a good place, or if I'm just like fucking around and being super unhealthy and stuff, you know, or like clinging on to narratives, like we were saying.
It reminds me of that hermetic principle. And if you read, what's that book that we both got? The Kybalion is this ancient
Kabbalah.
hermetic
Dude,
principles. Kybalion.
Yeah.
Kabbalah
I just
is this
opened
like
that the other day.
ancient old Jewish. Yeah.
I know. I
The
just
one
said it wrong.
Yeah. The one law there
I have
is
it right
as
here.
above, as above, so below is one of the laws. And
that's the law. That's the law of astrology.
Yeah, you will see this mirror. So just as vibration goes in ups and downs, it has crests and troughs. We have a mirror representation in our own lives and in the grander arcs of civilization. So we have these huge waves going, you know, like of reality and vibration that are acting out on huge cosmic potentials and also on really minuscule, minute potentials. And so the exact same thing happens with civilization, where we could be at the bottom trough of civilization's uprising, but within ourselves, we're also a mirror of that up and down. So we can also tune ourselves into relationship with that. So we could also be in a really low to mirror the above, right? But we can also retune ourselves to kind of go into into an equilibrium state, and then we can navigate through the low troughs through equilibrium. So this is this as above, so below. If you begin to see, everything is like this. Every expression we have can be reflected in the universe. The love between two people when we're having sex is also a representation of what's going on huge cosmic scales. With you know, just even dancing, just swirling our hips is the exact same movement that's going on in the galaxy, the Milky Way. We're swirling, and it's every movement we do, every expression we have is as above, so below. It's there. Everything is in mirror. Everything is it's all happening.
Yeah, everything you do, there's way deeper meaning. So what are some things people can do? I mean, like to kind of like, obviously like the first is like learning, you know, like reading, like opening yourself up, like to that quantum field, as you said, of what's it called? Like where anything is possible, of infinite possible.
Yeah, quantum potential. Yeah, quantum infinite. It's the potential state, the infinite potential state. Yeah, which is an actual state of being that you can tune into. It's not a concept. It's an actual state of limitless potential that you can tune yourself to.
Right. So what helps you get to somewhere close to that level? So I always talk about the intellectual curiosity and flexibility, but it's just like, it's really getting to understand yourself and think about, what self-limiting beliefs do I have? It all starts, if you're not monitoring yourself, what's that quote? Like something life is not worth living. Like I forget the quote. Like basically the life where you're not like observing or analyzing yourself is not worth living. I believe that. And if you're not looking at yourself, you're not knowing like what are your, not even triggers, like what are the things, like what are the little hints you get from like your reactions to like maybe everyday life or whatever, where you say things like, I'm not I'm not a this kind of person, or like, oh, like maybe I've learned a bunch of fucked up shit about the Chinese government, right? So then maybe I'll be like, oh, fuck China. I never want to go to China. But what if there's one of the most amazing fucking hidden treasures ever in some mountains in China or something? Or like, what if there's like,
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you start maybe grouping every Chinese person into what the government's doing. That's something you don't agree
right,
with. So then all of a sudden you're kind of becoming biased and prejudiced. And that's sort of how, racism came to be, is these people in power took an idea and made people believe it. And then everyone
right,
believed it. And then no one analyzed it. A lot of people did and were like, okay, this is fucked up. But a lot of people just continued
yeah,
to believe it and then set that as a part of themselves. And then no one questions who they are. That's the real problem, is no one questions. Everyone takes who they are by like, they stand by it so strong. Like, I am this,
yeah.
I love,
A Republican.
I love country music, and I hate every other kind of music, right?
Yeah. I love meat. I love pork o'clock. Harold Balder.
Yeah. Yeah, bacon.
Yeah. It's like, oh, but what, like, okay, so how do you know you love it? Or how do you know you are that kind of person? Have you tried on every, like, how do you know the US is the best country in the world? Have you been to every other country? Like, how do I know that I love Romania more than everywhere? I don't. I haven't been to
Yeah.
even a quarter of the world. I haven't even been to South America. What if I fucking went to like Argentina or Brazil and I was just like, holy fuck, like these places are amazing, or like they love music and football like so much, and there's such like everything's awesome. Like that's just one little thing. Or like, what if me saying, oh, I'm just into astrology, so I'm not going to learn, I'm just going to say all science is bad, or science is too like, it's too stubborn, it's too like methodological, I can never say that word, methodological, and like it's too boring and slow. Then that would push me away from a whole nother side of things I can learn through science, which has so much to
Right.
teach.
And
So it's
most of
just
the
like,
time, most of the time we only think like science and math is boring because of the
yeah,
teachers we had to influence us in our life. Like
right,
everything we can find a passion for. You're not set to be one thing. You can find a passion for anything. It just needs a spark.
exactly. That's
And when you
alchemy right
find
there.
yeah, and if you can create that spark for anything in your life, then you've got the energy and the charge to do anything you want, because you need that spark to take things. You can't invest anything. You can't invest anything of yourself if you're not interested in it. And that's why it's so hard to go through school, like middle school and high school, because teachers are kind of dead with their life. They've hit this like boring wall, and they teach this like same old things out of these
Yeah,
textbook, and they don't spark the
yeah,
student. But you do get that rare teacher who all of a sudden makes physics fun, or like who all of a sudden is
yeah,
making chemistry something that's fascinating, because it really is, when you think about it. Like
yeah,
like science is uncovering the truth of our universe in very concrete terms that it's like, it is actually quite fascinating when we start to look and see how we function through electrons and protons, and how we have quarks and the smallest, particles. Like, it's so cool. And it takes,
yeah,
it does take that spark, but you can find interest in it. But if you limit yourself, like, oh, I hate physics because you had one teacher that was
yeah. Or
really
like,
boring,
I hate school. Like it's work. Like I don't want it. Like they're forcing me to learn this. Like
Yeah,
fuck the government.
yeah.
You know. But like that's actually like a psychological concept, anchored cognition, that you're talking about, where it's basically like you learning is about much more than just learning sitting down on a desk. It's also about the environment. It's also about your body, right? There's all these
Yeah.
different factors that play into learning. And humans like learning in this type of structure, like sitting at the desk way, it's not going to work for everyone, right?
No.
Like for me, like I learn best when I'm hiking or I'm walking. It's different for
Yeah, let's not
everyone,
even get into the education system, because the model hasn't changed since we were producing kids to be factory workers. This is the same
Yeah.
it's a very similar model that runs through every school, is to listen, repeat, do good tests so that you can get, you know, you can, so that the school looks good. You know, it has nothing to do, some schools really take an approach, and some teachers do their best within the system to help, you know, students. um, but it is
Yeah.
really a model that doesn't inspire creativity in a lot of senses, and it doesn't inspire, like, doesn't teach you how, it doesn't teach about individualistic learning, because everyone learns differently. It's uniformed learning, and it's test
Yeah.
memorization, test memorization.
And it goes back to what we were saying before about like, you know, the Buddha path or the Jesus path, like of spirituality, how like we all have our own paths based, you know, on our astrology or you know, because the astrology is the blueprint of who we are individually. And it's the same thing with education and learning. Like, you know, what, like maybe the whole, that whole system is just designed by one triple Taurus person, or triple Taurus, triple Capricorn, you know, something like that. But like, it's not going to work for a Pisces or for an Aquarius, you know? And so
Yeah.
you're almost in this world, you're forced to, you know, there's so much ignorance that you're forced to find things on your own, and you're forced to rely on synchronicity. So that's why I think the power of manifestation and belief and prayer and all that is so powerful, is because if you pray, if you first understand, I don't know shit, and then you ask the universe, please provide me with a teacher or with something that comes into my life magically that starts to kind of show me a little glimpse.
Mm.
That's a step. That's a first step, you know?
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
you, like, at the root of it, like, Jesse and I have come across some pretty cool people. Like, we've done some awesome, like, kind of mind manifesting shit where we've come into contact with dope, like, astrology teachers or some really cool figures along the way who just are really wise and have taught us, you know, if we spent
yeah,
some time with them, like some real time with them, we could learn a lot. But I think the biggest moment of this age right now, the age of Aquarius, is sovereignty in terms of you're becoming your own teacher. And the best way to do that, you have the fucking wisdom inside you. It's not, it's, you don't need someone else to teach you it. And the best way to do that is to listen to your breath. Your breath is
yeah,
the best teacher. It will teach you anything. And you might you might not understand this now, but literally spend 10 minutes in the morning and continue, because it is prayer, and it is wind, and the Garden of Eden, to get biblical, the Garden of Eden exists within you. Heaven exists within you, and you have to be able,
state of
it's a
mind.
state of mind, and you have to be able to get your breath tuned to that state of mind, because like we said before, everything is vibration, everything is rhythm. Once you hit that rhythm, once you hit that pure tone, because you hit that pure tone of heaven, boom, you're going to be glowing. You're going to walk through the fucking streets, and that's the fucking Buddha that right there, who's hit that pure tone. And he ain't
Yeah,
vibrating to those things like, oh, where I have to go smoke a cigarette. Like, maybe he'll do it for pleasure, who the fuck cares, but he'll stay in that vibration. He won't
yeah,
be like, he won't be a slave to it. He won't be a slave to his thoughts or to his feelings, because he's always humming on that frequency.
yeah, exactly. And it's just like, it brings back the whole thing, which is just like, yeah, like so many people rely on the external world, external circumstances, and they push away that, like, oh, like I can't do this because it's COVID, or I can't, you know, I can't make this, the business of my dreams come true, or I can't learn this because, you know, whatever, you know, there's a million excuses always, right? About like, and some of them are kind of valid about like why you can't do something, but everything starts inside. And manifesting, praying, believing in yourself, hard work, like anything is fucking possible. But it's only possible when you actually truly at your core believe. Like, I honestly think that anything is possible for me in this life in terms of like how far and how high I go. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way, like fame or money. I mean that in like the impact I can have. I honestly believe anything is possible.
Yeah.
And I don't always feel that way. I feel that way right now, but it takes repetition and really like getting in your own head and doing stuff that might seem weird to other people, because you have to be your own genius. And just getting in touch with yourself, talking to yourself, whatever the fuck you do, and not relying on the external. If you're someone that's relying on someone else or a group of people or you know, whatever to give you your value, like, you're never gonna win. It's got to come from within.
That's why it's so important to get to that center point. And you cannot get out of something if you're in your certain way of thinking. So that's why, like we said at the beginning, you have to clean the slate. Let's say you have an Etch-a-Sketch that's like full of fucking jumbled lines. There's some cool pictures on there, but there's a lot of shit on there too. You can't if you can't continue to draw on a, you know, jumbled up Etch-a-Sketch. What you need to do is you got to shake it. You got to shake it clean. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's the breath. For Jesse, it's running. For people, it's like all just jumping on the guitar and playing for 10 minutes and getting into that flow state. Other people, it's jumping out of a fucking plane, skydiving. You know, you need to wipe that slate clean, but you have to have a consistent way of doing it, because you got to do it every day. Or else the Etch-a-Sketch is just gonna get
in some way. In some way every day, you know, you don't want to put too much pressure on yourself. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, you want to have the routine.
Jesse, some sort of routine. You don't have to run like 2 hours every day, but I'm talking about like, you have to clear your head at least once.
I have to get my I have to get my vibe high every day. Like, if it's not running, like, I have to get out. I have to go like in the sauna or go on a walk or do something that I can't just sit. And, you know, some people might, you know, it's different for everyone. Like, and we don't judge like where someone is. Like, if someone is getting that through like weed or something like that, you know, it's probably not a good long-term solution. But is it like, what's your view on weed? Like, like, if it's helping you short-term, you know, I think it's better than some of the alternatives.
Yeah, I always see weed as a medicine that, like, for me, when I take mushrooms now, I use it for like emotional healing and deep dives. And it is like it's almost like a therapy session with a plant. That's how I feel. It's like, I'm not doing it for fun. I'm not doing it out of habit or kind of addiction or necessity. So I think when weed gets to addiction, or when weed gets to habit, it can become actually quite disrespectful to the plant and to yourself, because you're hurting your lungs. You're doing this, you're only smoking to kind of forget a reality, or you're kind of using it to escape, or you like it because it feels good, which is low level desires. So if you're doing that, then it doesn't really help. But if you're using it in kind of a way where it's actually like helping you move through things and process things, and you're not dependent on it, then I think it can be a really beautiful medicine, because it helped me. Like, I was so depressed and I smoked weed for the first time, and I, for the first time in 12 years or more, I don't know, maybe my whole life, thought a tree was beautiful and saw the value of a tree. And then I saw my value in myself in relation to it, and I saw what it was doing, and it opened my eyes to a lot of, because there is the secret with weed. There is a real teaching there, and there's a whole chillness, there's a whole vibe that you get, which can be really helpful to get you out of maybe a stuck place, but it can also put you in a stuck place.
I think it's very transitory. Like, it's like, it's one of those things that you really have to monitor yourself and not do it all the time. But if you are someone like who has like a ton, like, you know, we have a friend who, you know, has a ton of trauma and who, I guess, used to use that in that type of way, then like that's different than like a different type of usage, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's slightly maladaptive, because you are dependent on this thing, and it is actually killing you in the long run. And there is scientific proof that it does degrade your brain cells and over time, and that you will get lung cancer. So it is a maladaptive behavior. Right. So if you need it to cope, like a crutch, like then it's really helpful. But you really do have to do the work on your own.
Exactly. So the way like the friend we're both thinking about from back in Boulder, it was something for them that was way more how would you say it? Like they were very, very traumatized, and it actually helped them kind of like shift the traumas. And I haven't talked to them in a while, so I'm not sure where they're at now, but I know that like it was something that, yeah, helped them kind of get out of like these cycles, right? Kind of how we've talked about cycles, but then they were able to also put it down for a week or a few days if they needed it. It never was something that was so psychological, like they needed to like wake up and do it, right?
But then I also saw them.
The question
saw them get into that stage, like where it did becomes like I saw the different processes where it was like very helpful at some point, and then other times they were like wanting to quit, but then they couldn't quit because it had become too much of a crutch, you know.
For him, or just in general.
Who are we talking about? Him?
Yeah.
No, I was just talking about. Oh, I think we're talking about two different people.
Yeah, I just don't want to say names on.
Yeah. I think we're talking about different people, but whatever. The point still remains.
You're thinking about Jimmy Slimming.
No, I'm not. I'm not thinking about Jimmy Slimming, but I also do not think that he used it in a healthy way.
Yeah. If you guys don't know about Jimmy Slimming, we got a whole podcast on him coming. Maybe we should tell him about Jimmy Slimming.
There is a whole story about that, but we've been going for a while, genuinely. We can't go into Jimmy Slimming right now. Like, I think an hour and a half.
Yeah, we need it. Yeah, we can. Damn. Oh yeah, fuck, it is 21:30. My fucking phone. Look at this shit, dude. My old phone. What can I do to get around this? It just stopped. This start button stopped. This sucks. I'm depressed. No.
Yeah, like fuck this, man. Like fuck iPhone. Like, oh my god. Like fuck this, dude. My fucking phone. What am I gonna do? This fucking sucks. Like poor me. Like fuck this phone.
I can just use the search function. But yeah, I guess so. What other things can we say? Kind of wrap up today. There's a million different ways you can get to a higher place, but nothing is going to change.
Well, let's not say higher place. Let's say get to your core, your center.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Get to your center. Which, okay, the one thing I think that we kind of need to talk about that we haven't, that was kept coming to my mind, is the heart chakra, because that's what, when I think about psychedelics and I think about like I think that takes you directly to the heart chakra, which for like people who like have never, not just psychedelics, who like, there can be people who haven't felt into their heart chakra for decades.
Yeah, that was
like
me.
It's that intense, or maybe only if like you can have and you think you know what it is because you think like, oh, I love this person, but to actually feel it can be so intense. And I think that's what kind of can like send some people away from the psychedelics and different like kind of teachings like that, because like they almost feel like they're gonna have to feel so much sadness before feeling happiness, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like that, you know. And it can be a more smooth, like, the psychedelic type of way is more intense, like boom, like shoving it in kind of. But like, you know, like even just like little meditations where you like search on YouTube, like learning about the heart chakra and like meditating on the heart chakra, listening to music that opens the heart chakra, like it can be a more subtle, like smooth Venusian plant opening instead of just like a bulldozer, like with psychedelics that just like forces it to open, like bah, bah.
If you take too many if you take too big a dose that you're ready for, that's when it feels like that. For me, it most of the time did not feel like
every
that.
Time I've ever done it.
Yeah, because for me it did not feel like that. It would feel like on the come up. I would be moving through the sticky emotions, like this, like kind of the kind of sadness or like things that I wasn't looking at. I'd be slowly moving through that, and then by the time like an hour and a half passed, I would have cleared it away and then kind of been open. And then when you open up into the heart, anahata is what it means to. So, okay, let's talk about chakras for a quick second. Chakras are actually places within the spinal column that are clusters of nerves. And the yogis developed a system of visualization to tap into these nerve centers. called chakras, and all the colors that you see, they're not actually, they're based on the spectrum of light that goes up. So but different yogi schools have different colors for different chakras. It's not really the importance of the color. It's more about matching a visualization and sound to this, because visualization is really strong in the body. Your brain doesn't distinguish between actual visual stimuli and imaginative visual stimuli. So if you are focused on the exact point and your awareness is centered on that nerve cluster in your spinal column, and you're visualizing a flower, into it, and each petal has a different meaning, then you're literally imprinting things into your psychic schema, into your psychic blueprint. And then you start humming a vibration into that place. What are you doing? You're literally a tuning fork for your own body. You're humming you have to hit that key perfectly. It takes some time, because a lot of people are like om om, but they're not actually saying om. They're not hitting the tune of om.
You want to also say that you're still doing something, though, to get it. You're saying to get it perfect.
You're finding it.
Let's not dissuade people from trying, it's a
no, because when I first started, I was so far, and even now, like when I try and do it, but then there's moments where I hit that note, and my whole body feels it resonantly. Like all of a sudden it's like this burst when I hit that tone. And it is hard, but it takes practice, like anything, like an instrument. It takes practice to learn your own instrument of the body. But so the heart chakra is anahata means unstruck sound. So in the yogic philosophy, the heart chakra is infinite space, infinite unstruck sound, potential, silence, openness. And when you begin to visualize your chest in this open space, and it starts small, but you begin to, it's infinite. And that's the heart. It's infinitely compassionate. It's infinitely open. And people have it to certain degrees. Like maybe, a certain sage, or, like you have someone in your friend group that's so compassionate, and they just have it on a higher level. So they're a bit more open. But when you hit that pure tone, it's infinite. You contain the whole universe within your compassion and with your love. And that's what, some of these sages, like there's this one sage called, she's this hugging saint. She's called the hugging saint because her heart chakra is like so like infinite. And when people hug her, they say that they're like washed in light, or like they get the download of what a full open heart looks like. And so the potential is there to be limitless.
Totally, and for every chakra there's a different meaning and a different it's just something to explore on your own, like anything spiritually. Like I have my own way of doing it, and I also will listen to like other ways of doing it, but really just kind of like being aware of the existence of them and what they all, I guess, mean, and just kind of going in that rhythm and checking them and realizing, oh, maybe I have an imbalance in my third chakra. Like if you don't feel like doing shit, like maybe you have an imbalance in the third. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn from that. That can really set off a lot.
It's easy to see this as wishy-washy, like chakras, if you just, because they're in fucking gas stations now. You can drive to a gas station, there'll be some sort of car sticker for a chakra, or you see it in any new age store, or you have some fucking yoga teacher that only teaches the movement, physical side of yoga, and then starts talking about chakras like she doesn't know it, but she doesn't know anything about them. It's really important, if you want to get into ancient yogic practices, to kind of find good teachers and real teachers, and actually really get some books written by actual Indian people and not some, because a lot of the knowledge gets lost when it gets watered down when it comes to the US or to the West. So you have to try and get to the source, as close to the source as possible, because the chakra system is actually a really complex scientific almost, it's like a psychological mode of, you know, reaching, like increasing your vibration. When you actually read how these yogis were doing it, it's not, you know, oh, just visualize this, visualize. It's like quite precise, scientific, and even each
like Kundalini yoga too is like very similar to that. You know?
Kundalini yoga is called Raja yoga, which is like royal yoga. And it's because it has these super complex, like breathing, visualization, movement patterns. That's like, it's actually the stage. Like normally they say Raja yoga is the greatest yoga because it's really complex. And I remember trying to do some of those exercises where it was like, okay, visualize a 16 petal lotus that's glowing green, and then each petal has a different meaning, and then you have to do this breathing exercise while doing this movement with your arms and with your, it's like, unless you have an awareness great enough to, you know, to take that up.
We killed it though when we were doing it.
Yeah. We, it was powerful.
With Pavanji, Honey Bunny.
Oh God, I hate that version of myself.
There's so many weird people at our Boulder yoga place. Like we didn't know it. We were both just kind of getting into spirituality. Trey thought he was like an embodiment of like a rainbow or some shit.
Too much acid. See, this is why you can't take too much acid, kids.
Okay, don't act like you took too much.
I took a lot.
Too much acid, people. Okay, not really.
Maybe not like I didn't take a sheet at
too
once.
much. Like dude, Rat Dick Ralph was taking acid every day, so it's like you were taking it once in a while. You want to be careful when you use the word a lot with many American listeners.
True. I haven't done it like to the level of a festival wook, you know, but I did it a lot. And then what happened was, like, let's say
you were down for a while.
I've probably done it
for a
like
while. You were down.
I've done it for like probably like 30 times. And what happened was when I first started doing it, I wasn't in a high place. So when I came down, I was kind of returning to this kind of, I had so much knowledge that I just learned, but vibratorily and thought-wise, my patterns were still ingrained, and I was in a lower place. But when I was on acid, I felt so good, like I was centered and in my truest self. So I was always looking to the future to be this acid version of myself. And I kept trying to imitate that while I was sober. And that's what created this weird dissonance in my cognition, where I was trying to be this like super, super, super high vibe acid version of myself.
Yeah.
And I just ended up becoming like this super ungrounded kind of spiritual hippie. And it was tough because like I always felt out of place. Like I always felt like I wasn't myself, and I had to be this version of myself.
It was almost like you felt like you have to try
to
become what you need, what you became on acid.
By
the way, the full moon just happened probably in the last like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, like no way.
The complete full moon. That's why we're so fucking like fucking speaking truth.
Should we bring this to a close? My butt's getting sweaty.
Yeah, I need to figure out some food. I'll probably make some pasta and a sandwich.
I got some food waiting for me.
Yeah, so I guess to conclude, like, you know, we probably have some different episodes we could talk about. We could probably even like talk about different stuff and like teach people different stuff, even, you know. If it is something like chakras or something like that, who knows? But
dude, we could
do at the end of the day,
workshop on that.
Yeah, exactly. Like what is the big takeaway? I mean, we talked about a lot of stuff today, but I think this is a big, like, I don't even know what I'm going to call this, like mental health. Like, what would you say the title for this episode is? Like, how do you define this episode?
Just I see it like
it's more.
It's like cleaning the mind and finding your center, and it's like walking. It's like tuning yourself, because I mean that's pretty much what we came to. It's like through all of this, the most important thing is that you have to take care of yourself and you have to tune yourself, or else you're just going to go out of tune, and you got to find the way to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like figure, like, not every path is going to be the same path for you. And just, yeah, I mean, we said so much in this that's hard. It is hard to summarize it, but
Yeah.
kind of
So
like,
this is to become spiritual. To become spiritual is to become the master of your own instrument, the body. And it's like you can become a master pianist, but you could always imitate Bach, and then you'd never be a master pianist yourself. You can't follow in the footsteps of another master. You have to become your own master. And by doing that, the only way to do that, like you do have to learn certain things about the body, but like after a while, once you learn every note, once you learn the theory of piano, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're going blank, you're going thoughtless, and you're composing, and you're just playing with it. You're just having fun. You're just moving along it. You're expressing, and that's exactly what it is with the body as well.
Yeah, it's like you can take other things you've seen as like observations, and maybe like kind of like take little little things and try them on, but in the end, you're just like, you have your own unique birth chart, which you should get readings by me done, by the way. Just like you have your own unique birth chart, you have your own unique path and way of getting to where you need to get. Like we said, for me, and it's just, in life is about figuring out what those things are for you. It's different for everyone. The way I hear trance music is not the way you hear trance music. The way you do yoga or react to psychedelics or something, whatever, is not the way I do. Everyone has different ways of being, and you just got to kind of like get away from this, like, spirituality is just one type of path, and figure out what works for you and what doesn't, I guess. So shit. I guess anything else? I can't hear you. It's like a robot. I think Trey just said he needs a pee. So Trey, say something, say if we can hear you.
Yeah, I just had to pee.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, it's all good. Happens. But yeah, I guess should we just end it there, end the recording there?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Okay, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, tell more people about this podcast. We're gonna keep making them. If this helped you, let us know. Like, all the DMs and comments, not that many, but they all really mean a lot and show that people are listening. Fucking phone again. Do you hear me, Trey?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. And yeah, I appreciate all that. And just also, let us know like your opinions on anything. You can like, I'll probably make a post for this episode, and love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, and any subjects you'd like to hear us talk about. So we are out. Thanks, guys.
Auf Wiedersehen.
What did you say?
I said Auf Wiedersehen. This is goodbye in German.
Auf Wiedersehen. Obrigado, Portuguese. Mulțumesc.